Why is it important to make your offer stand out in this market?
In a market like this that's incredibly competitive, I think we need to do everything we can as agents to make our offer stand out amongst the competition, and there's just a number of ways you can do that. It's not necessarily always about dollars.
Yeah. Communication with the other agent is so important, and just being there to make sure that they know what your client has to offer and making sure that they know that you are going to be a great co-op agent with them.
I agree with that completely. Some of the best transactions we've had are when there's great communication between both the buyer and the seller's agents, and both are in there doing what they do best for the right reason, so that everybody walks away a winner.
That's right, 100%.
In today's market, there's never just one offer on a house either. So you got to make it stand out amongst the crowd. So whatever it takes.
Yeah, one shot, right?
Yeah. But I think what Whitney said first was so important, is that it's not always the highest dollar amount that makes the difference.
I agree. Yeah.
So if you were the listing agent, what in an offer would stand out to you?
Oh, I would say right now, with having so many multiple offers coming in, I think what we're seeing is the no due diligence period, the no appraisal, or if you have that appraisal gap, having those funds available to make sure that you can cover that, and just making it as clean as possible. I think that's huge.
Yeah, I think it's important to find out from the listing agent what they're looking for, and make sure your offer has all that in it. Whether it's closing attorneys, whether it's occupancy after closing, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
How do you prepare your buyers to be patient and aggressive with their offers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Yeah, it's really important to get to know who you're working with very well, and what their strengths and weaknesses are. You know, one individual I'm working with right now, it's taking a long time for that person to come around, given that there's very few homes to look at in their parameters, and so continuing to empathize with them, be right there with them alongside the whole journey, and let them know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We will find the right one, and all will prevail.
Yeah.
I think a great way, I had a client recently, he found out the great way to find out how to be patient. He went to an open house and said it was like a college frat party, cars all lined down the street. So that sets the stage so they understand what the market is like, because you can tell them all day long, and unless you see people there, you don't know, if you're just writing offers, that there are hundreds of people looking at that house. But you go to an open house, they get to see what it's really like.
And I think also just really preparing them to know that you're probably not just going to be writing one offer, that more than likely you're going to have to write a few offers in order to get yours accepted. And unfortunately, that's just right now the way that it is in the market.
At the end of the day, I always tell my clients, and I have yet to have one tell me I was wrong, but when it's meant to be, it'll be.
It's true.
Why is earnest money so important?
Well, earnest money kind of sets the stage for your skin in the game. Earnest money is something that, it's part of the contract, and typically we see earnest money being anywhere from, with a minimum of 1%, but most agents want a minimum of 2%, if not a little bit more. And, I think your client needs to know that that earnest money does go towards the purchase of the house, but it shows that they have skin in the game. It shows that they want this house and that they're willing to put a little bit of money on the line in order to get that house.
And for a seller, that earnest money is what we all refer to as good faith money. So it just lets them know that basically we're here to work with you, and if we don't uphold our contractual obligations, that money's yours.
Yeah.
We're all taking a risk together.
Yeah, Georgia is a buyer beware state, and so it's that earnest money is important.
What is an appraisal gap?
Who wants to take it? I'll take it. So, what is an appraisal gap? An appraisal gap is basically what you're offering versus what the property appraises for. And so it's, unless you're offering cash, there's that guarantee with a cash offer, and you don't have to worry about an appraisal. And there are other circumstances in which an appraisal can be waived, but it's that gap is what your offer is versus what that property actually appraises for. And that gap in the middle is what you're either bringing to the table or what you're willing to pay in order to obtain that property.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important for people to understand that, because that's a term that is not in other markets.
No.
This market has brought that about, where
Oh,
10 years
100%.
ago, you never paid more than the house was appraised for.
Yeah.
But now it's, so people who haven't bought a house in 10 years, or new home buyers, or
Yep.
whoever it is, they need to understand what that is and why it's about in today's market.
Well, and we're seeing properties get offers $30, $40, $50, $60,000 or even more over what they're listed at.
Mm-hmm.
And so there can be a very wide appraisal gap. And so as a client, as an agent, it's so important that we prepare our clients and let them know this is kind of what you're getting yourself into. So
Right.
being very aware of the fact that, when we write this offer, you're committing to having these funds available and being able to bring them to the
Right.
table in order to, procure this house.
And I go back to setting the stage in the very beginning of the expectations
Oh.
and having that conversation in the beginning, and that's part of your
Mhm.
relationship building with
Absolutely.
them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't want to wait until the day that you're writing offers to go
Oh.
over what those things are. You need to make sure they're prepared well in advance.
Yep.
What is a finance contingency?
Finance
Awesome.
contingency is the amount of time that it takes for a lender to verify all of their documentation and making sure that all of the buyers' ducks are in a row, basically.
Why is a finance contingency important?
Because there's a level of risk associated for a seller when you're working with a longer finance contingency. It just means the lender has that much time to verify that this person is qualified to purchase this home at that price point or whatever it is that they offered.
But that's why it's so important to have the conversations prior to.
Yeah.
Because we can take those financing contingencies from what used to be 21 days down to 0.
Yeah.
So it's all about communication, and it's so important the lender that you choose. We talk about it a lot, but somebody that's from out of state or somebody that is unfamiliar with our market, we really want to ensure that it's a smooth transition. That's why, it's, if you've got a lender, we may say, maybe you want to look into this one or this one. And the reason being is because of the experiences that we've had with these lenders and just the smooth transaction, because your lender makes or breaks kind of what happens.
And at the end of the day, would you want to know that you have a buyer ready to pursue this property who's done all of the
Yeah.
necessary work up front, or someone who may have 15 days to do that?
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
Well, and that's also where it comes into where you've got a pre-approval
Mm-hmm.
or a pre-qualification. They're two very, very different things. A pre-qualification is basically somebody's glanced at your information and says, yep, looks good. But a pre-approval, they've actually dug in a little bit and
Right.
they're
Done the work on the front end.
done the work on the front end,
Right.
making sure that you're able to purchase that home.
Absolutely.
So what is the purpose? What is a due diligence period and what is its purpose?
It's so important.
Come on,
It's
Steve.
very important. Next.
But like we said
How
previously,
important is it, Mari?
Is it?
so in Georgia, we're a buyer beware state, like we said. And so your due diligence, it's the time that you have to investigate that home. And it's not just about your inspection. It's the time that you drive by that home, you check your commute. If it's something that, you drive by there at night to see, is the lighting good? Or,
Right.
there's so many things that the due diligence kind of encompasses. But it's but we're seeing more and more where that's waived. So you're doing your due diligence kind of on the front end rather than the time that you're doing it through the contracting period.
It's like a making sure period.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also interesting though, what the due diligence period has done in this market is that people are so pressured to get into houses in this market, so they hop in on a house knowing that they have that due diligence period where they can change their mind and back out. So houses are coming back on the market repeatedly because people are jumping at houses that they may or may not want to buy.
Quick decisions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People are forced to make really quick decisions right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we keep hearing the term escalation clause. What is that?
Well, what it is it's basically you're offering on a home, but you're putting in an escalation clause, which means you're willing to go up to a certain point if there are offers already on the table and the seller can prove that those offers are coming in. Then your buyer is willing to go up at stages, call it, $1,000, whatever it may be, and go up to a certain point. It's just another way to help provide the seller with what your intention is and what you're willing to do to get into that home. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. And typically you have an amount that you're willing to go above and beyond what your highest offer is. And then you also have, oftentimes you'll have a cap on that to say, I'm not willing to go past X amount, but I will go $5,000 or $2,000, whatever, over what that highest and best offer
And
is.
it doesn't mean you're going to get to that,
No.
because if there's no competitive offers up to that point, you don't have to go up to that point because the seller does need to provide proof.
Yeah, it's just another tool as agents that we're using to get a little bit more creative with having our offers stand out. But I think even now we see it so often that I've seen written in offers
More
where
the norm.
they don't even want an escalation clause because they're getting so many of them. So just give us your highest and best offer to start with, and we'll go from there.
It's such a competitive market. How are you preparing your clients, your buyers, to compete in this market?
Well, first I want to have an in-office consultation with them, to really set the stage for what they can expect because there's so many stages to it and it moves so quickly once it starts that being able to sit down with them and explain to them kind of what to expect and what we need to have prepared moving forward. So it's first talking about, before we really do anything, having that consultation with a lender. That's number one, because you don't know what you're qualified for, before you have that consultation. So that for me is number one, just making sure that I have the opportunity to sit down with them and explain. But my number one first thing is talking about a lender.
Yeah, I put together a first time home buyer or first time in a while home buyer, first time buyer in this market, because it's like being a first time home buyer.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that we've discussed about contingencies and due diligence periods and escalation clauses and all that, I go over with them over this sheet just to kind of lay it out ahead of time. So when we start writing offers, they understand these terms that I'm talking to them about, and they understand, what it means to them and what it means to the seller. And so I doing a lot of buyer consultations in the coffee shop now.
Yeah, me too. And I also use that as an opportunity, not just to educate them, but get an understanding of their objectives ahead of the game so that I know that I'm not wasting anybody's time and I'm pairing them with an appropriate lender. Everyone's a different personality type. And I think it takes knowing who you're working with and what they're looking for to help them succeed.
Yeah, part of that buying consultation beginning is, like, to your point, really helps me get a feel for where they're at.
Yep.
Right.
And an understanding for, whether they're just browsing right now and just getting a feel for what the market is doing, or whether they're committed and ready to start moving forward.
Yeah.
And that is a game changer for all of us, and our time and our energy and what, how we can help them best.
Absolutely, because you've got buyers right now that reach out that aren't ready for even 4 to 6 months. And what's on the market today is absolutely not going to be there in 4 to 6 months. So it's really, kind of looking at what is it that you're looking for and really preparing them. And even if it's having them go out to some open houses and such to just start getting a feel for things and get ready so that when they're ready to pull that trigger, they're ready to go.
That's great information. This is a lot of information for a new buyer to take in. How do we get started?
By calling us here at the Clareo Group.
We're here. Where are you?
678-485-4487.
Whoa, 404-202-6878.